Now this last tutorial in set 1 will briefly look at the idea of a building pad and how that relates to the topo surface. We'll also quickly look at the idea of a level. Now this will all lead to set 2, which will go through the steps of establishing levels as well as floor slabs and foundations. Now let's quickly look at building pads. Now the building pad tool is located in the Massing and Site tab, Model Site Panel Building Pad. Now if you hover your mouse over the building pad tool, you'll see an extended box appear with an image and an explanation on how a building pad is usually generated. Now essentially a building pad is just a building element, but it's a very special one. It's a topo surface hosted building element. What that means is it has to be placed on a topo surface. So there is a close relationship between a building pad and a topo surface. Now when you place a building pad on a topo surface, if it cuts into the topo surface, it will automatically excavate the topo surface for us, a bit like excavating into earth. Now if there's a gap between the underside of the building pad and the topo surface, it will fill that gap in for us. Now let's quickly have a look at the building pad tool. Now before we click on the building pad tool, I'm just going to run over to the levels, the floor plans. Now I'm in my site, my section view here, and I can see that I've got 2 levels here. Now I'll explain levels a little bit later, but I've got a ground floor level here and a level 1, and you can see that in the project browser as well. You can also see that they're both cut through the topo surface. Now I'm going to place a building pad on level 1, so I guess the first step is to double click level 1 and see what's there. Now I really need the survey drawing as a reference so I know where to put the building pad, and because we're in level 1 we won't be able to see the survey drawing because it sits 2 levels below this level. So what we're going to do is we're going to hop back into the site level so we can actually see it. We'll draw the building pad here, but we'll tell Revit to put that building pad on level 1 for us. So here I've got my topo surface, and I can also see some of the lines from my survey drawing underneath that. Now if you find that too distracting, you can always turn the survey drawing off in the visibility graphics. I'm going to leave it on because I like to see the contour lines as a reference. Okay, let's call up the building pad tool. Now everything goes great because we're now in sketch mode. Now at this point you can just draw the shape of your pad, and that's what we call a profile. So if you go up to the draw panel, I'm just going to choose rectangular method. You can choose whatever you like, and I'm just going to draw the shape of my building pad like so. Now before you finish the building pad, over here in the properties palette, in the level field, change it to level 1, and this is where we tell Revit to put our building pad on level 1 once it's finished. Even though we're in the site level, it will put that building pad on level 1 for us. Now to change the thickness, we need to actually change the definition of this pad, and you do that through the edit type button. Now we'll explain types and instances a little bit later. For the moment, just click on it, and then next to the structure field, click on the edit button. You'll see a value underneath thickness. Change that to whatever you like. I'm going to change it to 150 for the moment. Now I'll explain this a little bit later when we're building our foundation in set 2. For the moment, just press OK, apply OK, and then finish off the pad. Okay, so let's hop over to our section view. Here it is, and see what's happened. So you can see very clearly that the building pad has been placed on level 1 as we wanted it to, but more interestingly, it's also excavated into the topo surface for us, so you can see the earth go up there and dip down to the building pad. Now if you've got a box around your view, you can actually extend it. You can see that this entire section of earth has been cut out for us. Let's go into a 3D view very quickly, and you can see how this has happened. So that's what a building pad does. Now, a couple of things to remember about building pads. They can't overlap, so you can't have a building pad on top of this building pad. Another thing is they can't share common boundaries. So you can't have another building pad over here that shares that edge. You might have to think carefully about the profile of that building pad. So if that was the case, you might want to have a single profile that encompasses both building pads. So keep that in mind when you're actually creating your foundation and your roads as well. Now let's quickly move over to levels. Now I'm just going to go back into the section for a second. Now you can see that there are two levels in this section. There's a ground floor level and a level 1, and in the project browser there's the equivalent level 1 and ground floor as well. Now they're linked, okay, so whatever happens on the ground floor you will be able to see in the ground floor plan from the project browser. Now levels are basically invisible horizontal planes, so you can see them that way. Might be easier to visualize, and they're usually placed at a particular height. So the ground floor is placed at a 0 height, the level 1 at a 4-meter height. Now levels can represent a range of things. They can represent building stories, or they can represent the bottom and top of stairs, or they can represent RL levels. They can represent anything that involves a height value. Now when we created our building pad, even though we were in the site level, we were able to specify the level 1 as the level we want our building pad on. Now as you create your building model, you will need to establish levels very early on, and we will be doing that in the first tutorial of set 2. Now before I leave you, I just want to quickly show you the types of relationships that Revit set up between its different elements. So you know that the building pad has a relationship with topography. It excavates, or when it's actually above the topography, it fills the land for us. But there is also a very close relationship between the building pad and the level itself. And we can quickly demonstrate this by changing the height of the level. Now I just selected the number underneath the level name, and this allows me to dynamically change the value. I've changed it to 6,000, press enter, and you can see immediately that the level's moved up, but so has the building pad. Now let's pan over to the other side of the building pad, and you can see here that the earth right on the edge of that building pad has actually filled in for us. So if it was a little bit higher, you'll see that a lot more. So I'll just change it to 8,000 so you can see. There you go. Okay, so it's actually filled on both ends. You go to the 3D view, you can see the filling of the earth there. Okay, I'll leave you there, because in set 2 we'll be revisiting the building pad for foundations and floor slabs, and we'll also be establishing our very first set of levels.